Too early in the morning to remember. Film mechanic, producer.
Luke Bracey, Smitty Rocco.
Teresa Palma, Dorothy Schutte.
Ben Spawn, Sergeant Howell.
David Permit, producer. Andrew Knight, Australian.
Yes, and Mel Gibson, director.
Andrew Garfield, Desmond Doss.
Robert Schenken, screenwriter.
Okay, Mel, this movie, like all the films you've directed, is emphatically violent, and I wonder if you could talk about your feelings about violence as being an innate part, perhaps, of man, maybe because of original sin, and because Desmond Doss does not want to kill or fight, does that make him a saint in a way?
Well, I think the nature of the film has. Firstly, I wanted to be realistic in a war situation. Okinawa was the greatest loss of life in the South Pacific, and it was. I mean, the Japanese even described a steel rain of bullets and explosions, and napalm was used. So I wanted to make it real, and I think it also highlights what it means for a man with conviction and faith to go into a situation that is hellish, hell on earth, a situation that reduces most men to the level of animals, and in the midst of that maelstrom, this man is able to hone his spirituality and achieve something higher. In fact, above war, above religion, above everything. It's like he goes in and he performs acts of love in the midst of hell, which is like the beauty of the story, and it's the pinnacle of heroism.
Yes, so my name is Rama. I'm Seventh-day Adventist, born and raised, third generation SDA. So Desmond Doss is like Hercules, larger-than-life legend in our community. I've heard about him since I was a kid, and he spoke at my school, Hacksaw Ridge University, before he passed. So thank you for making, for bringing his story to the big screen in such an awesome way, guys. Thank you so much. Desmond Doss is our hero. So my question relating to that. In the movie could have just said, he's just a Christian who wants to hold on to his faith. But no, your movie actually specified and informed the audience that we SDA are mostly vegetarians. We SDA worship on the Saturday. So why do you think it's important to point that out? And how much research into our SDA community did you do in the process of making this film?
Do the writers maybe want to address that specifically?
You could start with Robert, because Robert really did the groundwork.
Well, I don't think you could tell the story of Desmond Doss and ignore his faith, his religious practice. So it was very important to all of us to get this right, to be accurate. I think it undergirds who he is, and it also, I think Desmond is such an extraordinary, such an unusual hero. He comes into this situation in the Army in 1944, as you point out. He's a vegetarian, and he doesn't work on Saturday, guys, because that's the day I worship, and I don't pick up a gun, and I'm a pacifist. You can't tell this story without speaking to the religious faith that undergird Desmond's life and was such an important part of his experience on Hacksaw Ridge.
And also the possibility of the Army coping with someone who has those kind of conditions put on them. I mean, you could almost understand why the Army thought this wasn't going to work. And what's so extraordinary is somehow he made it work. Not prepared to fight on the Sabbath, wouldn't eat bully beef. Extraordinary.
And yet, of course, he does make that final compromise on the last day to fight on the Sabbath, because, as Mel points out, his love for his fellow man, which is at the heart of his religion. And so he's not a man who's incapable of compromising. It's just that it must be of the highest order, and that's the choice he makes on that day.
My question is for Andrew. You did a fantastic job, first of all. And since you're playing a gentleman who most of us have never seen before, maybe we've heard of him, but we haven't seen him before, did you kind of go the extra mile in terms of capturing that character? Because there was some video of him and that kind of thing, but did you just kind of create him from the screenplay? And also for both you and the actors that were in the field, Vince and Luke, can you talk a little bit about shooting those scenes out in the field, and how did you feel when you were actually out there doing that? Because it was pretty emotional watching it.
Well, first of all, it's very rare that you read a script that, as an actor, for me, that I go, oh God, I have to do this. It's a horrible feeling to have the longing to tell a story be greater than the doubt about if I can do it or not. So that was the first thing. It's a testament to Rob and Andrew, and of course it's just a testament to Desmond and who he was. So I wanted 5 years to prepare. When you have someone's life that needs to be honoured, not only for his religious community, but the religion that was his way becomes transcended by his actions. And it's embodied in the moment where he is faced with a Japanese soldier in the Japanese tunnels underground, and doesn't hesitate to start healing a man in need. He doesn't see skin color. He doesn't see uniform. He doesn't see an enemy. He sees another brother. This is a transcendent act, and a rare thing for us to witness in our culture. So for me, it was I wanted to know everything. I wanted to read everything. There was a particularly profound moment where I went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where Desmond eventually retired and passed away. And I went onto his old property and went into his old woodshed and handled his tools and walked around the lake that he would walk around. And it was, I spent a day there just kind of praying and asking, like, just guide me through this. If you can hear me, tell me what to do, tell me how to move, tell me how to speak, tell me how to behave, and I'll do whatever you say. So that there was a strange, mysterious spirituality going on around the making of this film. And I know Bill and David Permit can speak to the long process it's taken to get Desmond's incredibly inspiring story out to an audience in order to make ripples further into the world. That his story will create ripples in the lives of others that see this film. I do believe about being true to one's deepest self. But in terms of the battle stuff,
yeah, I mean the battle stuff, the production designers and everyone in the crew down in Australia did such an amazing job creating a hell-like landscape. Yeah, in the back of Sydney kind of thing. And the first time we saw the battlefield was kind of, as actors, was kind of the first time that we go over the top on that rope, and you couldn't help but be struck by this absolute devastation. And that's one layer on it, and then also the special effects guys with their kind of new types of box bombs and pyrotechnics kind of added another layer to it. And you're going in there, and it's funny because in one point you're kind of going, oh, how could they? You can't even imagine what they went through. And it's like, wait a minute, that's exactly what we're trying to do. But it really helps that everyone involved in the whole kind of filming of those battle scenes was so on point and so ready to tell the most truthful story from Mel all the way down. But then it's also that melding of that fear and that truth, but also making sure it's clear. And I think Mel was kind of instrumental in helping us portray the truth, but also technically as well to make sure it was as clear as possible.
Yeah, it was always, each day bringing the right level of intensity or what's going on to it. But I guess for me, seeing Mel in that environment, visually, what he brought to it was just incredible. But moreover, I think the organization, you're almost like catching butterflies. You have a bunch of people moving around. Some are extras that are not, the communication level there is very difficult with the amount of people, and yet there's very specific actions that you're having to track, and I'm sure for Mel it's a much bigger jigsaw. So as an actor in it, you're trying to be connected to the moment, but I was really just impressed with watching him kind of be a conductor for all these moving parts and organizing. These were very intricate. You'd have hundreds of people having to move and do things at a certain moment in some of the cases, and even in the smaller decisions there was bags being thrown or things that were needing to be executed along with explosions. So Mel was tremendous at
making you feel relaxed enough, comfortable within it to not overthink it, but at the same time really, organize it all so that it was beautiful ultimately as it came together.
My question is for Vince. Was it challenging or cathartic yelling at your troops all day long? And for Andrew and Luke, can you talk a little bit about the boot camp training process?
Well, the script was beautiful, and what these guys wrote was just magnificent. There's very little that has changed in the actual writing of that scene, especially when you're first meeting the troops. And I thought it was, just terrific writing. So it's in that moment you're trying to obviously do all the things that an actor does to come to that feeling as if you're sort of in it, and then you're listening. But we had such great lines and stuff within that. And then Mel is, such a good actor and so fun. I learned so much in this and that, and even in dramatic pieces, to find the levity and not be so try-hard and, allow things to kind of be authentic by being vulnerable and stuff at times. So a lot of the great decisions and turns and things were great ideas that he had. Walk by this guy, something catches your eye. You would assume that it would be the naked guy, but it's not. So he had a lot of, I think, visual ideas and stuff that really kind of brought another layer to it. That was a lot of fun. But truly, the writing was just tremendous. And doing the research that I did on the drill sergeant, and especially with it being a battle time, even more so, I think it's important that you're trying to prepare people for life and death situations. You have to put them through a very vigorous test, both physically, emotionally, and mentally, because their life and the people that are around them will depend on how they respond in those moments, and there's no perfect training. And then, of course, on the other side of that, there's a love and a bond and a friendship having survived it. And I think drill sergeants at their best, you become a parent. These feel like your children. You're responsible for their lives. You take that very seriously. And so underneath it, there's a deep love, but there's an urgency to keep them alive as well.
Towards the boot camp, it was kind of, we had about a week where really we kind of all just crammed, from kind of 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon with a great guy, John Isles from Australian Special Forces. It was amazing. He's done a lot of work on films and stuff. I think he's still an active member of the forces in Australia. And I mean, it was necessarily doing everything at boot camp, but knowing what we needed to know and really drilling that in. And from even like holding arms and stuff like that. But it helps when every single person, every bloke involved in that unit is all on the same team, and everyone knew the kind of height and kind of story that we're telling, and so everyone was completely committed, and that makes it very easy to learn stuff and become closer even in that week that we had to kind of do it. It was just everyone kind of cramming for a test, really, in that idea, and everyone did their homework and showed up to class ready to learn. So we were all excited about learning this and doing it to the best of our ability.
I think one of the, just to add to that, I think one of the reasons why the film works on an emotional level is because of the bond that all of the young actors in the barracks created, and you can feel the devotion to each other, led by Vince. As he said, throughout the mockery, there was this thread of love underneath every single piss take moment. He was doing it because he loved us, and you could feel it through Vince's spirit and how he created Sergeant Howell. And I think that was just contagious through all of the young actors in the barracks. And one of the most moving scenes to me that just makes me cry uncontrollably every time I see it is after the first assault, and you have those 5 or 6 soldiers, including Mel's son Milo, and they're in this foxhole, and they're naming names. And I think Ghoul chokes on the name that he names. I wasn't even thinking about it, I just lose my mind. Because it's just young boys who love each other and who had no idea what they were about to face. And it's a real testament to their ability as actors, Luke and all the young Aussie guys in those barracks, and the devotion to each other, to creating true bonds of love, because otherwise we don't care. They made us care a lot.
Hola. Just to borrow a term from one of Vince's classics, you're all so money. And Teresa, you played such a great Dorothy? What was it like to play the anchor, the woman behind this man?
I mean, firstly, I think just to be a part of a film that I knew had the ability to affect positive change in the world was such a blessing in and of itself. And then to portray this woman who's a real woman with an incredible spirit to her, and she's very layered, and she's vulnerable, and she's strong, and she does stand by her convictions, and there was so much to do with her, but truly my focus was bringing to life this love, this romance between these two people. And I'd heard so many stories about their love and just how fierce that was and how committed it was. So I think there was actually a lot of self-imposed pressure to play her in a way that did the story justice. It was challenging in many ways, but I sort of got into a flow with Andrew, and it became this really organic dance between us. So we found a wonderful kind of way of being with each other, and it just kind of grew from there. And I love seeing them together in this film. It's really important. And I hope that they would be proud of it.
I'm going to just add to that my Teresa. Teresa has this access to embodying unconditional love, and it's a rare thing in a human being, and especially rare to capture on film. And in every moment with Teresa playing this part, I felt like I could do no wrong as a man, as a husband, as a terrible kisser, as a it didn't matter. I knew that no matter what, and the scene which I think she so profoundly nails in the prison when she comes to visit Desmond, she fills that small room with love that's threatening to break down those stone walls. That's what my experience of being in that scene with her. So I just want to kind of acknowledge her ability to pour forth that love from every